Just a warning, this episode contains mentions of suicide and other content that may be distressing.
Hi, Cheryl.
Hi, Cheryl.
Hi, guys.
We're so happy to talk to you, Cheryl. You've kind of been the missing link. I feel like we've had this missing,
We met Cheryl Myers over a Zoom call in April. It was just before the 1-year anniversary of Virginia's death. Cheryl was Virginia's carer for the 18 months before she died. For the last 4 months, she lived with Virginia full-time at her farm. Cheryl, a former law secretary and medical receptionist, had nursed her mother through Alzheimer's. Then her husband died suddenly, and she was a widow at 64. She trained as a nurse assistant and became a professional carer.
Because these people out there do need you, and they don't just need help. They need to have a cuddle.
Cheryl was working for an agency when, one day, she was sent to the Giuffre home. She was told the client was a VIP and she'd just come out of hospital. Cheryl was also told she may need to sign a non-disclosure agreement.
Yep, and it wasn't until some weeks later that her name came up, Virginia Giuffre, and to be honest, I hadn't followed the Epstein case. It really didn't mean anything to me.
Cheryl and 2 other candidates for the carer's job gathered in Virginia's room. The other 2 were younger, about Virginia's age, and Cheryl was 70 at the time. So she deliberately hung back, thinking the younger women would be able to better communicate with Virginia.
My first impression of Virginia was how beautiful she looked, because she had this long blonde hair pulled down one side, and she looked frail, even though she wasn't thin and small. She still looked very fragile. She had the nicest smile, Virginia. It was so gentle.
This sounds, well, a little woo-woo, but Cheryl says Virginia guessed her birthday. And then she said,
"You're the angel that's been sent to me." And that's how we began our relationship, yeah.
Cheryl really was like an angel. If there was the slightest change in Virginia, she noticed it immediately. When Virginia was down, Cheryl would give her little pep talks, coaxing her gently onwards. And she protected Virginia fiercely. Cheryl remembers one doctor who made an awful sexual comment to Virginia about being an Epstein victim. Well, she gave that doctor both barrels.
I just laid into him. I said, "You should be deregistered. You're disgusting. You've got no right to call yourself a doctor. You have no idea what this woman's gone through."
One of our favourite Cheryl stories is about a shopping trip to the department store TK Maxx. Virginia, who was a very wealthy woman at this point, took her friend and her daughter to the store and said, "Buy whatever you want." The woman and her daughter filled their shopping trolleys with expensive leather jackets and dozens of other items. But Cheryl?
I came out with a pair of knickers, 3 pairs of knickers in one little thing.
All Cheryl wanted was some undies. So why are we telling you this? Well, this episode tracks Virginia's final months, and it goes to some dark places. And in those dark places, we want you to keep in mind that Virginia had Cheryl. In some ways, Virginia spent her life searching for the unconditional, non-judgmental love of a parent. And then she finally found it in this unassuming grandmother from Perth. But Virginia also found something else: freedom. After being crushed by a terrible childhood, trapped as a sex slave to Epstein, and then fleeing to a 22-year marriage which, though happy at times, had turned into a type of prison, Virginia, finally, was free.
All I do know is that last 4 months when we were on our own, she was sad because she missed her children. But she was happy because for the first time in her life, she had the freedom to make decisions herself. Look, in that last 4 months, I seen the mother in Virginia where she yearned for her children. I seen the child in Virginia that had missed out on her childhood. I seen the teenager in Virginia where she could pranks on me all the time. She had the most wicked and best sense of humour ever. I mean, she was lovely. She was lovely.
I'm Carla Hildebrandt.
And I'm Mel Fyfe.
From the newsrooms of The Age, the Sydney Morning Herald and WA Today.
This is the fourth and final episode of Virginia, the final chapter.
Can't believe it. I've just got here, just getting out of the car. In Virginia's driveway, there was a baby kangaroo and a mum, and they're just hopping away now down her driveway.
Virginia's farm, or ranch as she called it, is an hour's drive north of Perth, in the West Australian wheat belt.
So it's a really big property, long driveway. I can't see the end of it.
It's a modern brick home on 16 hectares of bushland.
So there's grass, trees, there's cleared land behind.
And it's where she spent the last 4 months of her life, with her carer Cheryl, her 2 dogs, 1 horse, 2 sheep and a dozen chickens. She absolutely loved her chickens.
Like, the farm feels like a place that was really Virginia's place. It was hers, that she left to go to when things were hard at home, where she had some kind of escape. She could just get in her car.
Here's Virginia, while on horseback a few years ago.
This country is a second chance for a lot of people. For me, it was a second chance at a new life. I'll always be grateful to Australia. It's, down to its blood. I love it.
As we explained in the last episode, Robbie had put a family violence restraining order on Virginia in mid-January 2025. This meant she couldn't see her 2 youngest children or go to her Perth home. Here's our colleague Cass reading a Facebook message Virginia sent to her brothers.
I'm waiting for the goddamn police to let me into the beach house to go get my paperwork, kids' baby books, and just sentimental things.
Not long after she moved here full-time, things started to go wrong. This is her brother Sky.
Virginia's electricity and phone and all that was cut off at one point, and her internet at the ranch. We couldn't even touch base with her. It scared the hell out of us.
Virginia suddenly found herself locked out of many of her social media accounts. Here's Amanda, Virginia's sister-in-law.
She went to the police and told them that she was locked out of her Facebook accounts. She had to create new passwords. That's how she used to talk to us, is through Messenger.
In Virginia's diary notes from that time, given to us by her family, she talked about the impact of losing access to her Telstra account.
I'm unable to receive or make calls or texts, so I can no longer be in contact with my mental and physical health providers, any constables and lawyers, including family and friends.
When Virginia had to go to hospital, she found out her health insurance had stopped. Cheryl said that when a pipe burst at the house, she contacted the insurance company, but Virginia's name had been removed. And because of the restraining order, Cheryl says nobody could contact Robbie directly to solve it.
We're in this house with no water. We've got nothing. We can't cook. We can't wash. We can't do anything. So it was just a complete nightmare. She was isolated, totally isolated.
Virginia's diary notes reveal she feared Robbie during this time. He'd recently bought guns and ammunition from a mate who wanted to offload them due to a change in the firearms legislation. Not long after Robbie gained sole custody of the children, he pleaded guilty to a charge of keeping his ammunition unsecured. Her diary notes also reveal Virginia fretted about security. She wanted access to the CCTV system at the farm.
He needs to sign over the security and door keypad information to me so I can pay my bills and keep everything safe, as I do not want him on my property. Robert has the only access to the video recording at the ranch. I do not want to be watched by him. I used to be watched by Epstein's hidden cameras, so it is extremely triggering for me. He refused to give me the ability to access the video. It's part of the control I've had to endure.
This might be a good time to remind you what Robbie said to us in his statement. In his view, the pressure of the public eye resulted in Virginia suffering significant mental health issues and an over-reliance on prescription medication. This, the statement said, may have led to Virginia's, quote, change of perspective. Cheryl says that during this time, Virginia repeatedly called police with concerns about Robbie's guns and his history of violence against her. But the police were also contacting her because Robbie continued to report Virginia for breaches of the restraining order. Most of these, sending a song to her daughter on her birthday or sending money to her kids, she didn't get charged for. But then her luck ran out. On February 2nd, Virginia was in hospital undergoing ketamine treatment for her pain. Cheryl had stepped out briefly.
When I got back, she looked at me and she was crying and said, Cheryl, I've done something really dumb. And I said to her, what have you done? And she said to me, I've texted Rob and told him, why are you doing this to me?
A few days later, Cheryl had taken a rare holiday and arranged for Virginia's friend, who we'll call Rachel, to stay and care for her.
I had taken her into town in Perth to go to a specialist appointment, and whilst she was in there, it was a phone call.
Virginia was called several times by the police. They wanted her to come into the station, but they wouldn't say what it was about. Virginia thought something had happened to her kids.
She's with her walker trying to get in. We literally walked through the doors and they stepped up, walked around and pretty much put her under arrest instantly. She was gobsmacked. She couldn't believe it. It was quite traumatic.
The 2 male police officers arrested her for sending text messages to Robbie, which is a breach of the interim restraining order.
She was trying to tell her side of the story, but they didn't want to hear it. They had no interest in hearing what had happened or how it happened or what has been happening in the past.
After Virginia was arrested, they took her into an interview room for several hours.
She was more concerned about what had been happening at home, where her husband at the time, her ex-husband, was at, guns in the household, lots of different things, and they just didn't want to hear it at all. They just kept shutting her down. I still remember standing behind her and she just had her head on my chest and I'm just combing her hair to try and calm her down.
Rachel says Virginia felt defeated by the situation.
Her body was falling apart, basically. Like, she didn't have that kind of energy to be doing things that he's saying she did. Like, she needed all of that support.
Virginia was charged with 1 count of breaching the restraining order. Prosecutors would later allege she'd sent Robbie 9 messages, including a YouTube link, family photos and written messages. She was ordered to appear before a magistrate in March. Virginia was feeling the absence of her children intensely. She texted her US family.
I'm writing this message in tears. Not being able to see or hear from my kids has left a gaping hole in my heart. Devastated.
But she was trying to reclaim some control wherever she could. She'd recently removed her engagement and wedding rings, and a lot of her other jewellery was at her Perth home.
And she was pissed off at Rob and she's like, I'm going to go get my jewellery back.
So, in the weeks after her alleged assault in Dunsborough, she spent big at luxury jeweller Linney's and a local pearl retailer. Cheryl, who was with Virginia at the time, estimates the purchases total around $100,000. She bought jewellery for her mother and diamond rings and necklaces for herself. We'll come back to this jewellery because it turns out it seems to have gone missing.
Actually, we'd had a really, really good day.
It's a Monday afternoon in March 2025. Virginia and her carer Cheryl are heading home in her small white hatchback after a trip to the shops. The sun begins to dip over the wheat belt. Virginia is in the back with her dogs. They are only minutes from home. Cheryl notices a school bus behind her. She indicates and begins turning into Virginia's driveway.
Just hit bang. And the next thing, I was being pushed, my car sideways and down into a ditch. I ran down my window and I looked out and I thought, my God, that was the bus that hit us.
Cheryl asks Virginia if she's okay, and she says she's fine. Cheryl gets out and notices the rear tail light and the side of her car is damaged.
The bus driver got out and he walked towards the car, and I jumped out and said, "Are the kids okay?" That was my main concern.
The driver, who we've chosen not to name, says the kids are fine. Cheryl says she is also okay, though it was only much later she realised she had hurt her back. Cheryl manages to reverse the damaged car out of the ditch and drive the short distance down the driveway. She's worried about Virginia.
She's got all these titanium discs in the back of her spine. And so I said, we need to go to the hospital.
But Virginia refuses.
She said, "I'm in too much pain. I just want to lie down now." So I put her into bed, and then I ended up sleeping on the bed next to her so I could keep my eye on her all night to make sure she was okay. So yeah, and the next day we went to the hospital, and they kept her in then.
At Joondalup Hospital in Perth's northern suburbs, doctors were worried the crash had damaged Virginia's liver.
They didn't know what the damage was to her in her liver, because they said it could be ruptured in that. Overnight, I stayed in the hospital. I just slept on the chair.
The next day, Cheryl went back to the farm to feed the animals. When she returned to the hospital, she noticed another large bruise on Virginia's face that wasn't there before. Virginia told her that she had fallen on her face while trying to walk to the toilet. Cheryl believed that Virginia wasn't being taken care of properly. She argued with the doctor, but Virginia said she wanted to leave and go to a better hospital. But just before they left, Cheryl remembers a doctor saying something that would haunt her for days.
So when she was about to leave, the doctor told her, and I was there and I heard it. He turned around and said, "If you leave this hospital now, you could die." That's what he said. "You can go into renal failure." He said, "No, you need to go straight to hospital." She really believed she had days to live.
4 days later, on March 30, after she had been in and out of various hospitals, Virginia posted a message on Instagram. It was a picture of her lying on a hospital bed, eyes downcast, face bruised. This is what it said, in part.
This year has been the worst start to a new year, but I won't bore anyone with the details. But I think it important to note that when a school bus driver comes at you driving 110 kilometers, as we were slowing for a turn, that no matter what your car is made of, it might as well be a tin can. I've gone into kidney renal failure. They've given me 4 days to live. I'm ready to go, just not until I see my babies one last time.
And that's when all hell broke loose.
It's a social media post which has gained international attention.
Giuffre appeared to have bruised. She says she's in kidney failure. She is fighting for her life after a bus crash.
Really bad bruising all over the left side of her face.
And was gravely injured, posting a disturbing photo. But days later, she was
4 days to live. Really weird stuff. Really eerie.
Viewed in isolation, the post did appear alarming. To some, it was simply unbelievable. Within hours, the post took on a life of its own, fed by a good dose of confusion, conspiracy, and perhaps some slight exaggeration on Virginia's part. Virginia went from a victim to a villain overnight. The conspiracy theorists speculated the crash was a premeditated event orchestrated by Epstein's people. Others doubted the severity of her injuries. Some questioned whether the crash happened at all.
I don't know what's true and what's not, but I do know the injuries are not from the bus incident. What is going on here?
Conflicting details in this, aren't there?
Yes, it's a bit confusing,
Well, why would you whack her now? Like she said everything she has to say.
And she's been paid.
She named all the...
Many decided that this was proof that she was an attention-seeking fantasist. Supporters of Andrew Mountbatten Windsor seized on the opportunity to discredit her. One typical comment we found from that time went like this, quote, "It was a fake crash. This evil woman should be arrested for making false allegations." There were many elements to this story that fueled the speculation. When journalists contacted WA police, they initially said they had no record of the crash.
I do know there was an accident on the 24th of March. It was a bus with another vehicle.
And was there any...
The driver went on the defensive. The media reported him as saying Cheryl's driving was sus, but it wasn't reported why. He also said he hadn't seen Virginia in the car.
I'm not aware of passengers on the bus, but certainly the bus driver reported it as he was required to do and in the right time frames. And I'm advised it was about $2,000 damage to the vehicle, not aware of any injuries.
For Virginia and her family, the public reaction was bewildering. Here's Danny.
The YouTube and everybody just kind of turned on her, and she's like, I'm not lying. Like, what's going on? Like, I don't understand. And I said, I don't understand.
Virginia's family say that she didn't realise her Facebook was linked to her public Instagram page. Despite the post thanking, quote, the wonderful people of the world, Amanda said Virginia never intended for the message to become public and only wanted it to reach her nearest and dearest.
She posted on her Facebook because she wanted to reach her kids. And it was a cry for help.
Cheryl saw it the same way.
She was in a bad way in the hospital, but I think also was a cry to her children. I need to see her. It was a cry for her kids.
In one way, this cry for help was actually successful.
The last straw was seeing the picture that was posted where she was lying in bed and she had posted, her little monologue. And I really think that she thought she was talking to us and friends. And so I immediately went to my work and said, hey, guys, I'm going to have to go.
During the almost 28-hour journey from the United States to Perth, Danny kept texting Virginia. Can't wait to get there. Last flight pushing out. Be there in 5 hours or so.
My mission was to get my sister through her hospital stay and get her on an airplane and get her home so that she could get the proper care.
What Danny's referring to here, his mission, was actually a well-thought-out plan that Virginia's brothers and her publicist, Dinny von Muffling, had come up with. It was a plan to evacuate Virginia to the United States in a private plane. They believed her care wasn't up to scratch in Australia. They wanted her to recuperate at home in the US and then return for any legal battles with Robbie. But the problem was that Virginia was reluctant to leave her children, especially during the restraining order period, and she would not fly commercially because she wanted to take her dogs. There were also concerns over whether she should fly with her health conditions. We know that Virginia had been looking into experimental stem cell treatment in the US for her spinal issues. And we have a text from Virginia to Amanda in January 2025 talking about the cost of a private jet. She said she had a few quotes and it would be about $280,000 from Perth to Colorado. But the sense we get is that while Virginia's American support group was very keen on the idea, her people in Australia, her accountant, lawyer and Cheryl, never really thought it was going to happen. By the time Danny landed, he was exhausted. He collected his bags, climbed into a taxi and headed straight to Sir Charles Gardner Hospital. Virginia had been there since April 1st and had been in Royal Perth Hospital before that. The frenzy of media coverage over Virginia's social media post meant press photographers were waiting outside the hospital when Danny arrived. He thought he'd be able to walk past them undetected, but he was spotted almost immediately. A hospital staffer ushered him through the back door.
I walked into my sister's room and she let out this cry, this shriek, and grabbed me hard and pulled me in and she was in pretty bad shape.
He saw his sister lying on the bed, patting her support dog, a small black French bulldog called Juno. For a moment, the noise outside the hospital disappeared, and Danny was simply a brother beside his sister's hospital bed.
But as soon as they did the first couple bouts of dialysis, her body responded well.
Talking to Virginia's doctors, Danny began to realise the seriousness of Virginia's spinal issues.
She had barely any feeling in her feet. Her doctors in Australia were telling her, and it was a very scary thing for her, that within 5 years she would be bound to a wheelchair. She was like, I'm not even going to be able to walk in 5 years, Danny. And I said, okay, fine, then we'll carry you.
During this time, Virginia decided that she was done keeping the secrets of her marriage. She talked to her publicist and friend, Dinny, about revealing the alleged violence in her relationship. Dinny got in touch with People magazine in the States and issued them a statement from Virginia. It said,
I was able to fight back against Ghislaine Maxwell and Jeffrey Epstein, who abused and trafficked me. But I was unable to escape the domestic violence in my marriage until recently. After my husband's latest physical assault, I can no longer stay silent.
Here's what Dinny told us about why Virginia finally went public.
When he served her with the restraining order and was successful in getting the kids taken away from her, that was it. That was the final straw. You know, she had been trying to protect her children for so long.
On April 13, Skye arrived at Perth Airport, and before Danny left to return to work, the siblings took what would be their last photo together at Crown Perth on the balcony of Danny's hotel room. They're smiling, arms around each other's shoulders. Skye remembers good days and bad days during this time. On one of the bad days, he watched a delivery truck arrive at the farm. Virginia had been excited that she was finally going to get all of her belongings, including important documents, her book manuscript, jewellery and mementos from the Perth family home.
They opened up the back of it and she just went pale. And she's like, all of my things are in trash bags. And I'm like, how about you go inside, you get some rest, you don't need to be dealing with this. A really sad moment for her. Just kind of was a representation of this is what he thinks about me. After all of this, I'm just trash.
Virginia had suffered for years with a reliance on painkillers. Several people told us they believe she slipped through the cracks of the health system, with no one doctor holistically checking all the medications she was prescribed. People around her noticed that she'd sometimes nod off due to the effects of the prescription drugs she was on. And we've spoken to one person who was in Robbie and Virginia's life who told us that her reliance on prescription medication did take a toll on Robbie and the kids, as did her suicide attempts and poor mental health. But in the last few months of her life, she was starting to wean herself off these drugs and getting alternative pain treatments. Meanwhile, Virginia was struggling to accept that a relationship she'd been part of for more than 20 years had ended in such a spiteful way. Around this time, Virginia's friend from Cairns, Linda Freitag, said she spoke with Virginia for a few hours on the phone. Linda will never forget what she says Virginia told her.
This is an exact quote that she said to me, he's just waiting for me to die.
But during his time in Australia, Skye did see flashes of the sister he'd always known, the sister who laughed easily and found humour in an ordinary afternoon. They made margaritas and watched The Red, a ridiculous horror movie about a murderous zombie kangaroo.
Really silly, but when you're in Australia and it's really remote and there's kangaroos everywhere outside, I was like, I actually am a little terrified of this movie right now. So it was that.
They joked and teased each other. On April 24th, the day before she died, Skye and Virginia tried on silly outfits at an op shop.
She was so full of life even just the day before and joking around at a thrift store. She bought me a pirate hat and a bunch of...
That same day, Virginia saw a new psychologist. Cheryl said Virginia had been nervous about having to retell her story yet again. She asked Cheryl to tell the psychologist that she had laryngitis and couldn't speak.
So he sat there and he said, Virginia, I'm not going to ask you anything about your past because I think you've gone through it more than enough times. And I don't think you're interested in your past. You only need to know what your future is. And he said, and I'm going to help you. Her eyes lit up. I couldn't shut her up then. She said, I'm so glad I found you. She was hugging him and everything. She said, you actually understand. I don't want to go backwards. I want to go forwards.
I mean, he signed off on her to walk away and was going to be like kind of working on a treatment plan moving forward.
By the end of the day, he had her an appointment and she was wrapped. We went out that night and we had dinner with Sky. We were so happy.
Sky was due to fly back to the States in 2 days. He was still determined to get Virginia on the plane with him. Remember, that was the mission the brothers had, to fly their sister home. So that night they had a conversation, Sky urging Virginia to go with him, Virginia resisting because she wanted to sort out the situation with the restraining order and her kids.
So yeah, it's really hard to recount that because it was a very difficult conversation. It wasn't an argument. It was a conversation that we had. And I think she was just in the process of giving up. And maybe that's just something I see in hindsight. I mean, you can't blame me for trying to fight for my sister's life, you know? Basically, it was like my final plea of like, Virginia, like, you need to come home. Like, this isn't just about the fight right in front of you right now. This is about lasting to the fight later. I mean, it was hard, but she had her stance. I had my stance. And, you know, by the end of the night, she had sort of drifted off and I went and sat by her bed and I like literally grazed her hair and just told her I loved her. That's the last time I saw my sister alive.
April 25th, 2025, Anzac Day. Cheryl gets up at the farm and does what she does every morning. She brings Virginia breakfast in bed. They chat about the day. Then Cheryl's son calls. He's a soldier. He asks if Cheryl wants to watch him march in the Anzac Day parade, but she doesn't want to leave Virginia. Virginia, though, insists. Go, she says, see your son march. She says she'll take Sky out to lunch and buy him a new cowboy hat and boots. Around 10 a.m, Sky leaves to do some washing at the laundromat. The machine at the farm still wasn't working because of the burst pipe. So Cheryl waits until 12:30 p.m. for him to return. But he doesn't come back, so Virginia insists she go. They say goodbye the way they always do.
We did the usual, I love you, no, I love you, no, I love you more, no, I love you more. And we do this giggly thing, which we do every time, even when we're going to bed.
Virginia calls Cheryl about an hour later and reminds her that she's run out of medication. She suggests that Cheryl take the night off, pick up the medication near her house and come back in the morning. That was the last conversation they'd have.
And I said, were you sure? And she's like, yeah, of course, do it. And she was in a good mood.
Meanwhile, Sky decides to do some sightseeing.
I was like, let me go see the water. I hear like Australia has like the best beaches out there, you know. I haven't got to see one yet.
When Sky returns to the farm, it was about 3:30 or 4 p.m. He said later he hadn't realised that Cheryl was no longer on duty. When he gets home, he notices Cheryl's car is gone, but thought it wasn't uncommon for her to step out.
I remember like taking a quick nap and I'd got up and I was like, let me go get some dinner and finish up my night. So I'd walked over the door, I was going to knock on it, and I just heard like some really nice therapeutic sounds in the room, almost as if like she was meditating. You know, we had had a hard day the day before and she would have like a really good day and then like she'd be in bedridden for the next day is kind of what it felt like. So I was like, you know what, leave her be. I mean, she had stocked up on yogurt, and that's a lot of the time is all she ate. So I was like, well, it's probably not even worth asking her what she wants. So I ended up leaving and went and got some dinner.
Before leaving, he notices the CCTV system had been unplugged. This was not the one that Virginia had worried Robbie had access to. Those cameras had been taped over. It was one that Sky had installed, and it had external cameras and one facing the kitchen and front door area. Now, if it strikes you as strange that the security system was unplugged on this night, we're with you. It is odd, and we'll come back to that. Anyway, Sky says he arrived back around 9 p.m.
And I was on the phone with Amanda, and I remember saying to her, I was like, God, I really haven't talked to Virginia all day, you know? Like, it's been all day. And I was like, well, let me go and knock on the door. I'm like, hey, Janelle, I'm home. Like, you okay in there? Like, everything going all right? And no answer. And I was like, that's weird. She's not answering. So knock goes into a boom. Still not answering. Boom goes into a little bit of panic.
Sky says the door was barricaded with so many items he had to force his way in.
And that's when I ended up kicking the door in, and that's when I found Virginia.
He called 000 immediately.
I had tried to resuscitate her for 45 minutes. I think the ambulance got there maybe 45 minutes later. That whole time I was trying to bring her back to life. You could just tell, though, she was lifeless and her face was drained. And, you know, it just shows you it can happen in a minute sometimes, and makes you appreciate life a little bit more, for sure, because we had such a good day the day before. We were supposed to go shopping that day, and I didn't want to force her to do it. I think we were gonna... We were joking the day before we were gonna go buy cowboy hats.
About 10 o'clock that night, Cheryl's phone rings. It's Amanda.
I got a phone call from Sky's wife saying, Virginia's dead, Sky's knocked down the door and he doesn't know what to do. I hung up the phone, I phoned 000 and I thought, I don't know who to call. I thought, I don't know what to do.
Cheryl also calls Robbie, but he doesn't phone back. She picks up Virginia's lawyer, Carrie Loudon, on the way to the farm. When Cheryl pulls up, flashing lights stretch down the quiet country road. Ambulance and police cars line the street. Cheryl and Carrie aren't allowed in. Virginia's quiet country refuge was being treated like a crime scene by police. For Sky, the hours that followed blur together. Virginia is pronounced dead not long after emergency services arrive. He's ushered out of the room his sister died in, so police can photograph every corner. Sky was initially impressed by the actions of officers.
They were being very thorough about it. They did a fantastic job asking the right type of questions, I would say.
They knew who Virginia was. So when they got there, they knew that they had to follow everything to a T.
Officers search for clues, signs of foul play. They seize Virginia's mobile phone and laptop. Sky says he gives them the CCTV footage. Then the investigators arrive in their suits and ties. Sky is asked to go through the timeline again and explain his movements.
I think they wanted to make sure I wasn't one that had gone into that room and had done something. So I didn't get a chance to really look around the room, so I didn't know if maybe somebody had come through the window or something like that, but I do know it was incredibly difficult to get through that door.
Skye stays all night. Just before dawn, Virginia is taken from the home.
I was in a separate room. I didn't want to see her being carried out.
Virginia Giuffre, who accused Prince Andrew of sexual assault, has died.
Her mother of three took her own life, writing she lost her life
Her
to
death
suicide.
is being investigated by major crime detectives, but police say the early indication is not suspicious.
Virginia Giuffre's family said she was a fierce warrior in the fight against sexual abuse and sex trafficking. She was the light
that lifted so many survivors. She was heroic and will always be remembered.
In the end, the toll of abuse is so heavy that it became unbearable for Virginia to handle its weight. We know that she is with the angels.
When news of Virginia's death broke, the conspiracy theories intensified.
This story just doesn't add up for me.
Believe a shred of it at this point. I've seen too much.
Online sleuths pointed to her December 2019 post, which said,
I am making it publicly known that in no way, shape, or form am I suicidal.
Her father went on television and declared that, quote, somebody got to her.
And then for them to say that she committed suicide, there's no way that she did. Somebody got to her.
To this day, you can find internet forums where her death is earnestly discussed as a murder in a shadowy Epstein-related plot.
So I want to dig into some of the possibilities of things that went on. Just for
if you think this is at all just random bad luck, you are not paying attention to how power actually protects itself.
In the days following, her lawyer Carrie Loudon even suggested Virginia's death was an accident. But apart from investigators, only a few of Virginia's closest family members and friends know how she took her life, and they don't believe it was an accident. Here's Virginia's publicist, Dinny von Muffling.
Virginia had been talking about suicide. It was the reason why I called Skye and Danny, and she had researched methods of suicide, and no, I have no inclination whatsoever that it was misadventure. This was what she had planned. She had told me that this was her plan.
I think what kind of seals it in my mind, guys, is the security cameras were disconnected. And, you know, if she was just not attempting to do that, I don't think she would have went to those lengths.
If she was in her room, why would it make any difference whether they were off or on, in your view, in your mind?
So they were housed on the other side of the home.
Skye didn't really have a clear answer to this. He spoke about how the one camera in the house didn't seem to be recording, and then Amanda jumped in.
My thought process of why she would do that, because I don't think she wanted them to know that she was going to go into the room for a long period of time.
There was no sign of break-in. Her mental state, feeling defeated by everything. I've never seen my sister that broken before.
Skye won't talk about any other detail beyond that door. The door he kicked down. He's just too traumatized. But he wants people to know one thing.
But I want to let everybody know that, like, wholeheartedly, I know it's hard to accept it because of the warrior she was, but she did commit suicide.
Last month, 16 of Australia's top domestic violence experts wrote to the WA coroner. They urged the coroner to hold a public inquest into Virginia's death. The experts wrote to the coroner because they believe Virginia may have been failed by the systems around her. They say that an inquest into Virginia's death, because she's such a public figure, could prevent future deaths. Heather Douglas was a signatory to the letter. She's the Melbourne University law professor you heard from before. Here's Heather on the questions she'd like the coroner to answer.
She was engaged with mental health services. There was domestic and family violence, and she had police contact. Were those services connecting? Were they speaking to each other?
And the fact that she was actually the respondent in a protection order at the time of her death, was that really appropriate, or was this a case of misidentification? I think that's a really important thing to explore, because misidentification is such a pivotal issue for women who experience family violence. Who's the primary aggressor in this particular case is really important to know. And also what other options there were for the police. What kind of referrals did they make? What kind of responsibility do they have when they see domestic violence?
While there's a clear history of violence between Virginia and Robbie, it's important to remember that no one person can say what ultimately caused Virginia to suicide. She suffered through some of the worst acts a woman could possibly endure, and we're not suggesting that what she went through with Robbie drove her decision to end her life. What we are saying is that a spotlight needs to be shone on the issue of domestic violence in this country and the way it's treated by our government, our police officers and our courts, the pillars of our society that are supposed to protect those in need. We know that while women who are murdered rightfully get much of our attention, there's currently a push to shine a national spotlight on a possibly much larger group of women, the women who suicide after suffering a history of domestic violence. There are about 15 female suicides a week in Australia, and Heather Douglas says research shows a quarter to a half of these women have a background of domestic abuse. Alison Cameron, the Principal Assistant Ombudsman of Western Australia, says domestic violence-related suicides are under-researched.
The true numbers of women who are no longer able to cope, I think, would alarm the public.
Again, we're not saying that Robbie's actions drove Virginia to suicide, but the fact that she took her own life after raising allegations of domestic abuse should motivate authorities to examine their interactions with her. Both Heather and Alison believe that police and coroners are possibly missing opportunities to improve the system.
And we know that many suicides don't get investigated deeply by coroners, partly resource issues, partly because the investigations are fairly slight leading up to them, so there's a view that there's no need for a deep dive investigation.
Alison says that in WA, unlike other states, police don't report suicides with a history of domestic violence as a domestic violence-related fatality. She wants to change this.
What can we learn from these events? Ultimately, that's what we're all trying to do, is prevent harm. And the ways that we are best able to prevent harm must be informed by those who didn't make it. We owe them that.
At the time of recording, the coroner hadn't made a decision about whether to hold a public inquest into Virginia's death. The coroner's still waiting on the police to deliver their report into Virginia's suicide. In the meantime, as we reported in the last episode, the police have announced an internal review into their dealings with Virginia and her allegations of violence in January 2025. But we can further reveal that another body, the WA Ombudsman, will be scrutinising the police actions in this case. Sky told us he's disappointed police didn't seem to further investigate Virginia's allegations of domestic violence in the wake of her death. The day after she died, he spent hours talking to investigators. He said police had found her journal notes that documented her allegations and fears.
I want to really understand maybe what led up to this, and hopefully they get to that. And I guess now we're here today, a year and a half later, trying to still figure that out.
For Sky, it's about examining the systems that failed Virginia and making positive steps for victims and their families.
Ultimately, at the end of the day, I don't want there to be more Virginias out there that have to go through the same thing. And if we can use her platform and really understand kind of what transpired, and so that that another brother doesn't have to kick down a door.
We've spoken in earlier episodes about the rift that formed between Virginia's US family and Robbie. After she died, it got worse. Her extended family and close friends were not invited to the small memorial held after her death. Sky said their mother had asked Robbie for a portion of Virginia's ashes to be sent to the United States. He says that still hasn't happened. Linda Freitag, Virginia's close friend, held a service in Cairns in the absence of the formal funeral.
I wanted to say something for Jenna. There are so many people that wanted to say goodbye, to have that moment.
Several months after Virginia's death, this rift between her US family and Robbie became a legal battle over her estate. This battle has emerged partly because Virginia died without a valid will. She was supposed to sign her will on April 26th, the day after she died, and she'd marked this date on the magnetic whiteboard on her fridge. What we do know is that there's a lot of money at stake. We've been told the estate is currently estimated to be worth up to 30 million Australian dollars, which includes the compensation payments, assets, investment properties, and book royalties. Robbie's and Virginia's divorce is yet to be finalised, and Robbie may emerge from that with millions of dollars. The remainder will be divided according to whoever wins the battle over the estate, a case slowly making its way through the WA Supreme Court.
Now, a legal stoush is underway in Perth's Supreme Court over access to Ms Giuffre's
appeared
estate.
in an Australian court earlier today in a case to decide who controls her estate. Giuffre was the highest profile accused.
On one side are Robbie and Virginia's sons, Christian and Noah, backed by their father. If they win, Robbie stands to inherit just over a third of what's left after the divorce settlement, with the remainder divided between the three children, Christian, Noah and the daughter. That would make him, Robbie, the main beneficiary and most likely the administrator of Virginia's worldwide estate. On the other side is Cheryl and Virginia's Perth lawyer, Carrie, backed by Virginia's brothers and their wives. They say Virginia had an informal will, expressed to Carrie and also emailed to her accountant in February 2025. This stipulated a small amount of money going to Virginia's family and friends, but the bulk to her children and a small amount to Robbie. They say she wanted the money held in trust until the kids turned 25. We understand that in Virginia's informal will, she's given $1 million each to Sky, Danny, her mother, Cheryl and a friend, and Virginia had promised Cheryl verbally that she would get the farm. Virginia had already given Carrie her horse, but she does not receive any money under the informal will. Christian and Noah said their mother lacked testamentary capacity or mental capacity when the informal will was created, according to court filings.
She had multiple recorded conversations with her lawyer that had been recorded, time-stamped, everything. She wanted the majority of the estate to go to her children. Virginia is a public person, so her estate needs to be managed and cared for the rest of her children's life. They're very big decisions. What's going on here in the U.S. is major. There are future perpetrators that the estate may be able to go after. There are current claims against the estate. So for us, it's really about making sure that Virginia's wishes happen to its fullest extent and that her children truly are protected, not just today, but for their life.
Here's Cheryl explaining why she got involved in the estate case.
As things are now, if the will is not accepted, Robbie ends up getting most of the estate, and that's not what Virginia wanted. She's left him something in her will, but she definitely wanted the majority of the money to go to her children. Her children do much better under the informal will.
Before she died, Virginia wrote in her diary notes that she was concerned Robbie was taking her money and wasting it. I don't want Robbie blowing my children's money on himself, she wrote. In an estate hearing we attended in late June, Carrie's and Cheryl's lawyer, McLean Edinger, told the Supreme Court he was concerned with the amount of money being withdrawn from the family trust. But there are still lots of questions about Virginia's estate. She had a chunk of money in cryptocurrency, and now no one knows what happened to that investment. There's also the matter of the $100,000 worth of jewellery Virginia had at her farm when she died. No one seems to know where it is.
I didn't realize she even had jewelry while we were there, and I also had to go through customs. There's no way I would even bring jewelry back without having to claim it in one way, shape, or form.
Cheryl doesn't know where the jewellery is.
Everybody wants to know about the jewellery. A couple of days after Virginia had passed, one of Virginia's friends called me and asked me where was the jewellery. And I was like, I've got no idea. She said, well, we've been to the house, me and Rob, and we've looked everywhere for the jewellery and we can't find any. And I said, well, I don't know.
Sky says that while he didn't take the jewellery home to the States, he did take Virginia's journals that documented some of her experience with Epstein and his circle. When he came home, he copied them and sent them to her lawyers and a number of other people for safekeeping.
I mean, we're talking about some of the most powerful people, so there could be a chance that we could use it as evidence at some point.
For Robbie and his supporters, Virginia's US-based family are simply after her money, and this means spreading allegations about him. This is what he told us in a statement. What appears to be an orchestrated attempt by persons to gain financially from Virginia's death by making unsubstantiated allegations when they should have been aware of Virginia's medical conditions is simply disgraceful. After we started releasing episodes of this podcast, people aligned to Robbie have reached out to us or posted online comments saying they believe Virginia's family, specifically her brothers Sky and Danny, are simply out to get Virginia's money, and that Sky, in particular, pressured Virginia for money before she died. So we put that allegation to Sky.
Our family never asked Virginia for money. There was an instance once where Virginia did wire us money because she found out I was Ubering.
He means driving an Uber for work.
And she was like, you will not be Ubering. I'm sending you $15,000. Wasn't asked, wasn't requested. She did it because she wants to be there for her family in whatever capacity she could.
This rift between Robbie and Virginia's brothers has also left Virginia's children estranged from their family.
We don't want to be in a battle with her kids. Like, we love them. And I don't think they know that. And I think that's the hardest part is that, like, we don't have the communication there. I've tried to reach out, just trying to let them know we're here when they're ready.
But ultimately, Sky says they believe they are doing the right thing by fighting Robbie over the estate.
What a terrible, tragic story that everything that she fought for against monsters of sexual assault on the most powerful level, every single dollar is going to go back into the hands of her final abuser, and that's the last chapter. Can we imagine that that's the way the story ends? Because I can't, and I can't live with that. So that's why we're fighting so hard.
On April 25th this year, 12 months after Virginia's passing, family and friends, and even politicians gathered on the National Mall in Washington, D.C.
My friends, we assembled to remember and honor the life of a young American woman, Virginia Roberts Giuffre.
One of Virginia's enduring legacies is she inspired so many more Epstein victims to come forward. Standing together, they became a strong force for justice and transparency. They call themselves the Survivor Sisters, and on this day in late April, they took to the stage and paid tribute to Virginia, one after the other.
I will never forget what she sacrificed in the pursuit of justice. That is her legacy.
Virginia's courage opened the door for all of us to be seen and
When
heard.
survivors like me have sat in the darkest corners of our shame and pain, your effervescent light has illuminated a path out. You took shame and turned it to power. You are the music that keeps us all moving.
Sky concluded the event with Virginia's own words from her book, Nobody's Girl.
Page 366. If you've read this far, I hope my story has moved you to seek ways to free yourself from a bad situation. In my mind, I hold a picture of a girl reaching.
That book Sky's reading from, it's become one of Virginia's greatest legacies. It was released in October 2025, 6 months after she died. Nobody's Girl has now sold 1.4 million copies after staying in the New York Times bestseller list for 23 weeks in a row.
The British Book Awards Book of the Year is
Nobody's Girl by Virginia Roberts Giuffre, co-written with Amy Wallace.
But what if the book told only part of Virginia's life story? And what if she didn't want that version told? What if the man who she alleged abused her, Robbie, actually used the book to support the idea that he was a good husband? In October 2024, 3 months before her marriage fell apart, Virginia had signed off on a version of the book that had Robbie starring as the good guy, a white knight. Virginia was still keeping the secrets of her marriage then, and for the sake of the children, she didn't want to rock the boat.
You know, the way that he was portrayed in that book was sort of as like the hero that took her away from Epstein's Island, took her to Australia, and became the savior and helped her build this life full of non-trauma, etc. Kind of the picture-perfect husband, if you will. I know she had very grave concerns towards the end of her passing about the book itself and its current form and how it was written. She would tell Danny and myself and some other family members as well, like, I don't even know if I want to have this come forward. I don't like how Rob is portrayed in this book.
We've spoken to many people in Virginia's inner circle, here in Australia and in the US, and they all say that Virginia told them she wasn't happy with the book. Some say she wanted a total rewrite, and others say she just wanted it to be silent on Robbie. Some say she wanted it changed, so he was no longer the saviour figure that he's depicted as in the book. Here's Dinny.
She wanted to redo the book to reflect the accuracy of the situation, but then she passed away. And because we didn't have it in writing that this was not what she wanted, Penguin Random House refused to stop the publication of the book or make the changes that we asked for. And that's when Skye and Amanda and Danny and Lynette and I fought to have the foreword changed to reflect the abuse that she had come forward with. That was the most that we could get out of them, but we felt it was at least something that acknowledged what had happened.
The publisher has not responded to our request for an interview. In the end, Penguin Random House released the version Virginia was unhappy with, but added an opening note from Amy Wallace that included the January 9 and Colorado incidents, her allegations of abuse to People magazine, and the family's concerns that the book underplayed domestic abuse. Amy declined to come on the podcast, but she did write an email to us saying she had no conversations or communication with Virginia, indicating that she wanted to rewrite the book in any way. We asked Amy about something we'd heard from several sources, that Robbie had kicked her out of the house during one of her trips to Australia to write the book with Virginia. She wrote to us that yes, she had been kicked out. She said she'd been there for about 11 days in their guest room when Robbie tired of having a near stranger in their house. She said, quote, "I was due to go home the following day, but he was very agitated and made it clear I was no longer welcome. So I went and packed my bag, went upstairs and said goodbye to Virginia, and within 10 minutes I was out on the street, door slammed behind me by Robbie." A few weeks ago, when we put all our allegations to Robbie, we realised that Virginia's memoir wasn't just important to victim survivors of sex trafficking and abuse. It was important to Robbie. In his statement to us from his lawyers, he said, quote, "In the late Virginia Giuffre's book, published entitled Nobody's Girl, Virginia praised and thanked Robert for his support of her throughout their marriage and in particular her struggle to be heard. Some pretty momentous things have happened since Virginia's passing. Like, just 9 days after the book's release, King Charles stripped his brother, Prince Andrew, of all his titles.
Is returning his royal and military titles to the Queen and will no longer be referred to as His Royal Highness in any official capacity.
This is Amy talking to the media at the time.
I just wish that she was here to see this historic moment. I mean, history has just been made by Virginia Roberts Giuffre.
Start with breaking news about Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor. The BBC understands that he has been arrested on suspicion of misconduct in public office.
This historic development comes after years of fallout over his links to Jeffrey Epstein, and now taken into questioning on the morning of his 66th
Virginia's
birthday.
law would remove time limitations for victims of sex trafficking to file civil lawsuits.
Todd Blanche announcing the release of millions more files related to Jeffrey Epstein.
Today we are producing more than 3 million pages, including more than 2,000
Many of Epstein
videos.
survivors have been publicly pushing for years to have these documents come out.
And to every Epstein co-conspirator and sexual predator, we're coming for you.
With her book and the release of the Epstein files, it felt like people were ready to listen to one of Virginia's core messages, an opinion she always articulated so clearly.
I was trafficked to a lot of types of different men. I was trafficked to other billionaires. I was trafficked to politicians, professors, even royalty. So the circles that Jeffrey Epstein ran in weren't your typical setting of human trafficking, you know, and it was the elite of the world. It was the people who run the world. It was the most powerful people in the world, and those are our leaders. Those are the people that we are supposed to look up to. It's corrupt. It's corrupt to the core.
Sky and Amanda are now focused on Virginia's charity, Speak Out, Act, Reclaim, or SOAR, which has lain dormant since her death. They want it to become a resource and advocacy charity for survivors of sex trafficking. Sky, Amanda and Dinny are on the board.
No one can really know what, in those final moments, drives a person to take their own life. There are many reasons that Virginia, a survivor of child sex abuse and sex trafficking, may want to end it all. And she had tried several times. But those closest to her say that the thing that broke her on April 25th, 2025 was not seeing her children. The restraining order, as you've heard, prevented her from seeing her two youngest kids. Her eldest son was an adult at the time and was very close to Robbie. He was not part of the order, but he hadn't seen his mother. Her middle child was turning 18 2 days after she killed herself. Even though she wouldn't have been allowed to see him because the order was still in place, she had brought him presents. She'd stacked them neatly in his bedroom at the farm. Games, clothes, a leather bag.
And it was his 18th birthday, and I know that was huge for her. And I think I could unwind so many times where I was like, I could have did this different or could have did this different. But, you know, at the end of the day, she chose that, and I'll never fully understand why. But I have to respect that that was her decision.
As for Carla and I, these past 6 months have been a blur of super late nights and early mornings talking to Virginia's family and friends in the United States. Every day, we've felt the heavy responsibility of reporting on Virginia's life, of being fair to her legacy, but also to those she left behind. Incredibly, Carla and I have never met in person, so we jumped in the studio, myself in Melbourne and Carla in Perth, to reflect one last time. And because childcare is sometimes hard to get, we're joined by a little budding podcaster, her 2-year-old daughter. Hey, Carla.
Hey, Mel.
We've really been down some rabbit holes with this investigation.
Yes. Well, that's Lucia.
Hi, Lucia.
We have. I really disappeared down the rabbit hole of the bus crash and the media frenzy that followed. Like, I was obsessed with that for quite a while, wasn't I?
I know, I thought we'd lost you down that particular rabbit hole. And I became really obsessed with the missing jewellery and also the book, like how the book came to be published with Robbie looking like the hero. But I reckon, you know, in this story, we've had our fair share of rejection. Like, you get used to rejection as a journalist.
Yeah, you do. You sure do.
But I feel like it's been next level on this story.
Oh, it really has. On all levels, really. I mean, yeah, the institutions who hold so much power over someone's life I feel like there was just really little accountability for that.
Like the police, like they completely shut down. We really felt like behind the scenes, they didn't think that domestic violence had much to do with them, even though it makes up a huge chunk of their workload.
Yeah, and no one in the courts wanted to explain why the system operates the way it does, or any improvement that might be made. It was so secret.
There was also so much judgment around Virginia. She was expected to be like the perfect victim, the perfect witness, and there was such little empathy or care when she was in pain or hurt or struggling with trauma. And when she was really down, it felt like the system turned away.
Yeah, and if you find yourself on that wrong side of judgment from the police or courts, it's a pretty brutal place to be. It's hard to get your life back on track.
And the other thing we noticed was that behind the scenes, people would keep bringing the conversation back to Virginia's mental health.
Yeah, it seemed to be like this attitude from people that if you're struggling with your mental health, everything else seems to become like less believable. Yeah, I find it really confronting because I'd like to think that we've come further than that in 2026.
Yes, there's a lot of old school misogyny going on there, I reckon.
And I mean, one of the other things we were both struck by was Virginia's notes on domestic violence.
I think we were both moved by these notes. There's a page where she's writing down these little snippets like controlling behaviour is abuse, recognise warning signs, recognise the importance of healthy relationships, not threats to be involved. And then there was one, an amazing one, that said, we must challenge traditional notions that confuse love with control. And DV does not discriminate.
Yeah, it's like Virginia at the end of her life. She's sitting there out in the wheat belt and was finally working out what a healthy relationship was and almost like where her future was going to go, like advocacy in that area or something.
It's so sad that this realisation came at the end of her life. In early February 2025, Virginia texted Dinny, telling her that her life was in a shambles, but also she felt liberated.
I feel empowered. I feel liberated for the first time in my life. I am nobody's girl.
Cheryl noticed this too.
I used to love watching her go to the shops and talking to people. And the first time she did it after leaving Rob, she was a wreck and we were at the casino. She had one of the dogs and we'd forgot something and she said, I'll stay here, you run back and get it. And I ran back and got it. When I come back, there was two people talking to her and I could see her laughing. And I thought, I'm going to step back and let her finish this conversation because I thought she's gone through so much and just to see her laughing and it made my day. And when I got up to her and she said to me, oh, Cheryl, and I said, what? She was talking to them people, she said I was a wreck. And I said, why? And she said, I'm so used to not being myself with people. She said, and I was worried that, am I going to say the wrong thing? Am I going to do the wrong thing? And I said, no, you did the right thing. I said, it was lovely to see you laughing. She said, I felt happy. I felt free. And I said, I'm glad. I'm so glad. And so that from that day on, we'd go to the shops as often as we could and just to let her talk to people. And she'd stop people and talk to them. It was just, I'm glad she had that time to be Virginia.
A few days before her death, Virginia spent thousands of dollars on furniture to set up her long-held dream of a retreat on her farm, a place for victims of domestic and sexual violence. She wanted to eventually run the retreat with her daughter, Ellie.
She was sad because she missed her children. But she was happy because for the first time in her life, she had the freedom to make decisions herself. And she liked that. She had so much more to offer this world. She really did.
I was a fun-loving big sister to a little brother.
Age from Mar-a-Lago, and
entrapped in a world that I didn't understand.
Amazing, beautiful children who also play a huge part in why I spoke out in the first place.
Say a quick thank you to all of my supporters on
I implore the
Facebook.
community to please stand next to me and help me bring down all these bad people. And if you've got somebody in your life that's doing this to you too, speak out, stand up. The times are changing.
I just wanted to do this to tell you all how much I appreciate your kind comments, and it's good to see the world caring so much about each other. Love you all. Bye.
If you or anyone you know needs support, you can contact the National Sexual Assault, Domestic and Family Violence Counselling Service on 1800-RESPECT, 1800-737-732, Lifeline on 131-114, or Beyond Blue on 1300-224-636. Virginia is reported and hosted by Melissa Fyfe and Carla Hildebrandt. I'm Julia Carr-Catzel, and I was the executive producer on this series. Fact-checking by Mark White. Cormac Lally mixed the series. Thanks to our colleagues at The Age, Cass Knowlton and Andrew Wu for their voice acting. Thanks to Tammy Mills, Lisa Muxworthy and Tom McKendrick. Make sure you follow Virginia so you don't miss an episode. For bonus content, visit our websites, theage.com.au or smh.com.au. And you can send us questions, information and feedback to virginiapodcast@9.com.au. Virginia is a production of The Age, The Sydney Morning Herald, WA Today and Good Weekend magazine. Subscribe to support our independent journalism. Thanks for listening.